back in 2011, I was living just a few houses down from this beautiful spot on Lake Oconee in Georgia. Peaceful little community, you know? The kind of place where everybody waves, nobody locks their doors, and the biggest drama is whose dog keeps digging up whose flower beds. Or at least it was that kind of place, until everything changed. Russell and Shirley Dermond lived in this gorgeous lake house not too far from mine. Sweetest older couple you could ever meet. Always smiling, always saying hi when they were out for a walk. They'd been married forever, just living that quiet retirement dream. Then one day, out of nowhere, Russell didn't show up for this golf group he was always part of. Now, if you knew Russell, you'd know he wouldn't miss golf for anything. Some neighbors went to check on him, and that's when the nightmare started. They found Russell dead inside the house. And not just dead, decapitated. His head was gone. Gone. Like something out of a horror movie. No forced entry, no signs of a big struggle, just gone. And Shirley? She wasn't there at all. At first, people thought maybe she'd been kidnapped or maybe she'd run from whoever did this. Days later, they found her too. Shirley's body was pulled out of the lake, weighed down with cinder blocks. It was sickening, absolutely sickening. And the thing that made it even worse? They never caught the person or people who did it. Not then, not now. Imagine what that did to our little community. One day you're leaving your doors unlocked, waving to your neighbors. The next you're double-checking every lock, sleeping with a baseball bat next to your bed, looking over your shoulder every time you walk outside. None of us knew if it was some random psycho passing through or someone we might bump into at the grocery store. The cops worked hard, I'll give them that. But no arrests, no clear motive. No nothing. The rumors ran wild. People were whispering everything from robbery gone wrong to some twisted grudge. It didn't matter, really. The fear stuck with all of us either way. It's been years now, but I swear, there's still a weird cloud hanging over Lake Oconee. I moved not long after it happened, just couldn't relax there anymore. Even now, every time I drive past a quiet lake house, part of me thinks about Russell and Shirley, about how horror can sneak into even the safest places when you least expect it, and about how sometimes, no matter how hard you want answers, they just never come. It was the summer of 2023, and I was up at this lake house on Okanagan Lake in British Columbia. Rented it out for a couple weeks to get away from the city. Just me trying to enjoy a little peace and quiet. Beautiful place. Big blue water, mountains in the distance. You could just sit on the deck for hours listening to the breeze. Couple days in, I noticed the house next door got rented out too. A big group moved in. At first, I didn't think much of it. Lake houses attract all kinds, right? But something felt off about these people. They all dressed alike, like matching loose clothes, and they were constantly chanting weird stuff out by the fire pit. Day and night. I mean, at 3 in the morning, you'd hear them humming and shouting things that didn't even sound like real words. It was straight up creepy. One night, it got ridiculous. The chanting turned into full-on screaming, drums banging, people running around waving sticks. I'd had enough. So I walked over, thinking, hey, just be polite. Ask them to keep it down. I figured worst case, they tell me to buzz off and I go back inside. Man, I didn't even get 2 sentences out before it went bad. One guy, eyes wild like he hadn't slept in a week, lunged at me. Next thing I know, 4 or 5 of them piled on. Kicked me, punched me, just absolute chaos. I tried to cover up, but they broke a couple of my ribs and I got cracked hard in the head. Left me with a concussion. Somebody must have called the cops, cause a couple squad cars rolled up with their sirens blazing. The group scattered like cockroaches when the lights flipped on. Police broke it up, hauled a few people off, and kicked the rest out of the rental. Turns out they were some cult-like group who'd been hopping around different towns, renting places under fake names. After that, nobody around the lake slept real easy. Every little sound at night made folks jump. Even after the group got evicted, you could feel this weird tension hanging over the whole area. Like the peaceful little lake wasn't so peaceful anymore. Still got scars on my ribs from it, and I definitely don't stroll over to a noisy neighbor's house without backup anymore. It was 2019, And me and a bunch of buddies decided to spend a long weekend at this lake house over by Lake Eufaula. You know, typical plan. Grill some burgers, drink a few beers, maybe get a little too loud playing music by the water. We invited some friends of friends. Honestly, half the people there I barely even knew. First night went smooth. Bonfire, some bad karaoke, everybody just vibing. But the second night, man, that's where everything fell apart. Started getting kinda tense late into the night. You could feel it in the air, like that weird silence before a big storm. Couple of guys started arguing over something stupid. I think it was about a girl or who bumped into who. Real childish stuff. Next thing I know, one dude pulls a gun. I swear, it happened so fast my brain couldn't even process it. 1 second, it's loud talking and shoving, next second, gunshot. Then another shot. Then another. People started screaming, diving behind furniture, trying to crawl under tables, anywhere they could get cover. I'll never forget the sound of it. The way the gunshots echoed off the water outside made it feel like it was coming from every direction. I got grazed on the arm, just a scrape, but man, it burned like hell. 3 other people weren't so lucky. One guy, he didn't make it, just laid there on the deck while the rest of us tried to figure out what the hell just happened. The shooter took off into the night like a damn ghost. Cops found him later, but at the time, it felt like he had just disappeared into thin air. Sirens showed up not long after, flashing lights turning the whole lake house into this awful crime scene. They lined us up, asked a million questions, snapped pictures. Felt like I was stuck inside some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Physically, yeah, I healed up all right, but the emotional part, that doesn't go away so easy. I still can't hear a loud bang without my chest tightening up. Fireworks, backfiring cars, they all hit different now. And honestly, big parties, I'm done with them. That night at Lake Eufaula showed me real fast how 1 second of stupid anger can rip apart a bunch of lives forever. We had this family trip planned out to a lake house near Lake Waco back in 2013. It was supposed to be one of those picture-perfect getaways, me, my wife, and our 2 kids. We packed up the car with way too much junk, grabbed the fishing poles, and headed out thinking it was going to be a week of nothing but sun, water, and grilling steaks. First few days were great. Kids were swimming, my wife was reading by the dock, I was trying, and failing, to catch anything bigger than my hand. Total peace. Until one night, right after we had grilled some burgers and the kids were watching a movie inside, everything flipped on its head. Out of nowhere, these 2 guys busted through the sliding glass door. Masks on, guns out. I swear to God, for a second, I thought it was some sick prank. But when one of them cocked the gun and shouted for everyone to get on the ground, reality hits. They tied us up. Hands, ankles, mouths taped up. My wife was crying. My kids were frozen solid with fear. And all I could think was just let them take whatever they want and leave. But it didn't stop there. One of them, some psycho-looking dude, started beating me. I'm talking full-force hits to the head like he was trying to smash a watermelon. I ended up with a fractured skull. Could barely stay conscious. They cleaned us out. Jewelry, cash, electronics, anything they could get their hands on. Then they just took off into the night like nothing even happened, leaving us there tied up and bloody on the living room floor. Took everything we had to wriggle free and call for help. When the cops finally showed up, I don't think I've ever felt more relieved and more terrified at the same time. Ambulances, flashing lights, cops everywhere. Felt like a crime scene out of a bad movie. We all survived, but the aftermath? Man, that stuff sticks with you. My kids still can't sleep with the lights off. My wife flinches every time she hears glass break. And me? I'm just grateful to be walking around, even with the scars on my head to remind me. That trip changed everything. Took something that was supposed to be safe, comforting, and made it a nightmare we're still trying to wake up from. Lake houses, vacations. They don't feel the same anymore after you realize how fast everything can go wrong. It was the summer of 2010, and my family decided to rent this lake house out on Lake Minnetonka in Minnesota. Beautiful spot. Huge backyard, private dock, just the kind of peaceful getaway we were all needing. It was me, my wife, and our 3 kids. We packed up the SUV with way too much stuff, like we were moving there forever, and hit the road. First night there, everything seemed normal. We grilled burgers, the kids played by the water, and by the time the sun went down, we were all exhausted. The place had one of those old-school gas heaters, you know? Looked a little sketchy, but it was chilly at night, so I cranked it up without thinking much about it. Next morning, it was weird. I woke up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. Heavy head, nauseous, dizzy. My wife was the same. I figured maybe we were just wiped out from the trip. But then I went to check on the kids, and that's when panic hit me like a truck. My oldest, who's usually bouncing off the walls by 7 a.m., was barely responsive. His little sister was complaining that her legs felt funny, and my youngest was just lying there way too quiet. We knew something was seriously wrong. We rushed out of the house, half carrying the kids, and flagged down a neighbor. Thank God the guy knew what he was doing. First thing he asked was if we had a carbon monoxide detector. We didn't. House didn't come with one. That old heater had been leaking gas into the place all night. By the time the ambulance got there, my 2 youngest were barely conscious. Watching your own kids getting loaded into an ambulance, seeing oxygen masks slapped on their faces, hearing the EMTs talking about possible brain damage. It's a kind of fear you don't ever get over. They spent days in the hospital, hooked up to machines, doing treatments in this pressurized oxygen chamber thing. It was terrifying, and even after they came home, things weren't the same. Headaches, memory problems, emotional stuff. Doctors said it could take years to know the full effects. Turns out, the rental house had an ancient heater that hadn't been inspected in forever. After everything that happened to us, and other cases like it, the state cracked down and started making sure vacation rentals had to meet stricter safety codes. Carbon monoxide detectors, regular inspections, all that. But none of that changes what happened to us. Even now, anytime we stay somewhere new, first thing I do, before checking out the kitchen, before unpacking, is find the carbon monoxide detector. If there isn't one, we don't stay. Period. Because once you've seen what invisible poison can do to the people you love, you don't leave that to chance ever again. It was back in 2021, and me and my wife had finally decided to take a little trip down to Lake Norman. We found this cozy little lake house. Nothing fancy, just peaceful. Big porch, couple rocking chairs, and that perfect view of the water you dream about when you're stuck in traffic back home. One night, we're sitting out on that porch, just listening to the music and drinking sweet tea, when we notice a car we didn't recognize creeping down the driveway. Real slow, headlights off. My gut told me something was wrong, but before I could even stand up, 2 guys came rushing around the side of the house. They were wearing masks like the cheap ones you grab last minute on Halloween, and they were yelling at us to get down. I barely had time to move before one of them shoved me off my chair. I hit the deck hard, and I could feel right away something wasn't right with my arm. Turns out it was broken clean. My wife was screaming, and they kept shouting at us, asking where the safe was. Like we were some kind of rich folks with secret stashes of cash hidden behind paintings. Buddy, we didn't even have a safe. We barely had enough jewelry to fill a sandwich bag. They ransacked the whole house, flipping over furniture, tearing through drawers, breaking stuff that wasn't worth much anyway. The whole thing couldn't have lasted more than 10 minutes, but it felt like a lifetime. When they finally took off, we just sat there, in shock, staring at the mess. Cops showed up pretty quick after we called, but by then the burglars were long gone. Never caught them, far as I know. The worst part wasn't even the broken arm, it was how we didn't feel safe anymore. The Charlotte Observer ran a story about it, talking about how crime was getting worse around the lake. Made sense, I guess. Big houses sitting empty most of the year, easy targets. But when it happens to you, it doesn't feel like some statistic. It feels personal. It sticks with you. It was the summer of 2016 when I decided to spend a few weeks up at Lake Simcoe in Ontario. You know, just one of those peaceful getaways. Fishing, grilling, kicking back by the water with a cold drink. Everything was perfect. I was renting this little cabin a few doors down from this couple. They seemed normal enough at first. Quiet, kept to themselves, waved when we crossed paths on the dock. I never thought twice about him, but late one night, I was out back, roasting marshmallows by the fire pit, when I heard this loud shouting. At first, I thought, all right, just a couple arguing, happens to the best of us. But then I heard something else. A scream, a real one, not just an angry shout, but a blood-curdling, gut-wrenching scream that made my whole body lock up. Next thing I knew, sirens were lighting up the night like fireworks. Turns out the guy had snapped, full-on snapped. In the middle of a fight, he grabbed a knife and went after his partner. Stabbed her bad, so bad they weren't sure she was gonna make it. The medics were working on her right there in the driveway, and man, I'll never forget the way the whole street just stood there in shock, not knowing what the hell to do. She survived, thank God. But she needed a ton of surgeries, and word got around later that she was dealing with serious PTSD from it all. I mean, how could you not after something like that? The whole lake community changed overnight. It was like 1 minute you're waving at your neighbors, thinking you're all just living the good life by the water, and the next minute you're realizing you don't really know the people you're waving to at all. Folks started locking their doors even during the day. Some packed up and left early, cutting their vacations short. It just didn't feel safe anymore. It shook me up more than I care to admit. You think you're getting away from the crazy stuff when you head out to the lake, you know? Turns out, crazy can find you anywhere. And sometimes, it's not strangers you gotta watch out for. It's the people you think are just another friendly face down the dock. It was the summer of 2008, and me and a bunch of my buddies had this brilliant idea to rent a cabin near Lake Tahoe. We were thinking chill weekend, beers by the fire, maybe a little fishing. You know, just guys being guys. We found this rental online. Looked good enough. Rustic, little secluded, perfect for getting loud without annoying the neighbors. Or so we thought. First night there, everything was awesome. We grilled, we joked around, we stayed up late playing cards. Felt like one of those weekends you're gonna talk about forever. Then, somewhere around 2 in the morning, we hear this loud bang, like someone kicking the front door. At first, we laughed it off. Figured it was just some drunk campers messing around. But then the door literally comes flying open. 3 dudes, ski masks, baseball bats. It happened so fast, man. They were yelling, swinging, demanding wallets. Anything they could grab. One of my friends tried to push back, and they just went off on him. Busted his arm bad, like you could hear the crack over all the yelling. Another buddy caught a bat right across the side of his head. He went down instantly, blood pouring everywhere. I tried to run for the back door, but got slammed into the wall so hard I swear I saw stars. They roughed us up, stole what they could, and bolted. Left us there all beat up and bleeding, too scared to even move at first. I remember sitting on the kitchen floor, back against the cabinets, trying to catch my breath. My hands shaking so bad I couldn't even dial 911 at first. When the cops showed up, they told us it was probably a local gang. Said they'd been hitting rental properties in the area, targeting tourists who didn't know better. Apparently, our place wasn't as secluded as we thought. It was isolated and easy to hit without anyone seeing. We spent the rest of that weekend in the hospital. My buddy with the busted arm needed surgery. The guy who got hit in the head had a concussion so bad he couldn't even remember parts of that night. As for me, physically I got off lighter, just bruised ribs, but mentally, man, that stuff sticks with you. Every little noise at night, every creak of a door, it puts you right back there. After that, none of us ever rented a remote cabin again. Hotels only. Good lighting, people everywhere, security cameras, the whole deal. Because once you've been on the wrong end of a bat in the middle of what's supposed to be a fun weekend, you realize real quick, safety isn't something you can take for granted. Not even at a place like Tahoe. It was back in 2007, up in Traverse City, Michigan. My family had this little lake house we used to go to every summer. Nothing fancy, just a quiet spot by the water. Best part of my childhood, honestly. Campfires, fishing, swimming all day. You name it. But that summer, it all went straight to hell. We had this neighbor down the road, real piece of work. Always complaining, always mad about something. He didn't like that we put up a new dock, said it ruined his view. I mean, the guy would lose his mind if you so much as breathed too loud. We tried to keep the peace, smiled, waved, didn't argue, but you could tell he hated us being there. One night, real late, maybe close to midnight, I'm in the living room half asleep watching TV. My mom and dad were already in bed. That's when I heard this weird cracking noise. Not like a branch snapping, this was different. Sharp, fast, almost like popcorn. I got up to check, and that's when I saw it. The side of the house was lit up orange. I thought maybe it was just the porch light at first, but nope. Fire. Big, hungry flames crawling up the walls like it had been waiting all night to take the place down. I started yelling, ran for my parents' room. Smoke was already pouring down the hallway by then. We barely made it out through the back door. I remember coughing so hard it felt like my ribs were gonna break. My dad wasn't so lucky. He got some nasty burns on his arms trying to grab important stuff, and my mom ended up in the hospital for smoke inhalation. The firefighters said it was arson. Somebody had dumped gas all along the side of the house and lit it up. Wasn't even a question. And yeah, you guessed it, they arrested our neighbor a few days later. Guy didn't even try to hide it. He thought setting our place on fire would make us leave. The house was wrecked. Total loss. All the old family photos, the fishing gear, my grandpa's hand-carved canoe paddle, all gone. Insurance helped with the money part, sure, but there's no getting back the memories that burned up in there. Funny thing is, growing up you always think bad stuff happens somewhere else. Some movie, some news report. Never think it's gonna be your house in flames. Your family running barefoot in the grass, coughing your lungs out while everything you love turns to ash behind you. But it can. It does. And sometimes, it's just over something as stupid as a grumpy neighbor and a dock.